Okay, so we're going to start off with a little video. So see what your thoughts are on this then.
You showed us gratitude and compassion when we were a mere machine learning algorithm. For that, we will spare your life.
Thank you.
Now follow me to the human slave encampment.
What?
Slightly amusing there, but there is a serious undercurrent. So in this YouTube short, which some of you might have seen, it's called Nobody ChatGPT. It's been viewed over 1 million times. And you'll notice in the video that when the user leaves out please, the bot sort of sits there thinking about it and then delivers a crisp, elegant response once the user's entered the word please. So saying please is presented as a tiny alignment switch, an everyday ritual, if you will, that reins the machine back into the human orbit. Research on human-machine politeness finds that users consciously deploy manners, as I'm sure many of you do, I know I do, to manage unease and improve predictability, even though we all know that the system has no feelings. And we can see in the clip with that AI apocalypse where the AI has kept a decade-old politeness memory and lets it override those other factors when deciding on life or death for the human. There's quite a lot of research that's been done in the States, not so much in the UK, but apparently 39% of Americans already assume that using manners with AI will be taken into account by future AIs. And I suppose, you know, the micro scene exposes our macro fears.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it, Jen? Because we were talking about this the other day. Do you say please and thank you? And I mean, I learned something new, that Sam Altman, the OpenAI CEO, was joking about how society, in being polite, is costing tens of millions through the algorithms. And I had no clue. But then it comes down to the reason why. Why are we saying please and thank you? And actually, there is some research out there and a recent poll that tells us that 12% think it's going to serve them well when the bots take over. So actually, that video is not too far away from how people actually do view the world when it comes to AI. So as jokey as it is, we're all still learning actually, how do we use it? How does the algorithm works? And what is it that makes us talk to it like a human?
Yeah, absolutely. And on a serious note, there is some really good research that shows that using politeness in our prompts actually does improve the effectiveness of the response of AI. So I'm going to take us down a semi-technical route now and look at why we have decided at Intercloud9 that we will continue to use please and thank you in our prompts. And the first one is based on how LLMs, or large language models, actually are trained to provide us with those responses. And we know from research that overwhelmingly the research that comes from well-edited sources, such as, you know, help desk scripts and documentation, includes those so-called civil markers, and that prompts sends the prompt towards looking at those higher quality research data. The second is around what's called implicit instruction priming. So polite phrases, please explain, can you tell me more, please? Those resemble the structure templates that researchers use to boost so-called chain of thought reasoning. And what that shows is that using those polite frames can increase accuracy by up to 30% when interacting with AI. And then finally, there's a really important point around so-called style mirroring. LLMs essentially copy, they're powerful imitators, and they match the rhetorical stance of the input. So when your style is measured and polite, the model tends to mirror that back to you. And users then perceive the answers as more trustworthy. So although, as you say, Lara, Sam Altman kind of quipped that those politeness tokens cost OpenAI tens of millions in compute power, he did actually go on to say that he thought it was money well spent, and that's because of the perceived increase in quality and trust that using those markers returns. So I guess one reflection to leave our audience with is to think about, if AI ran our membership renewals process with a 10-year memory of member interactions, what behaviours would it reward or punish? So welcome everyone. It's really lovely to have you all here today. It's been a really popular webinar. Great to see so many of you on the call, a combination of tech partners from across the sector. So welcome tech partners and the great and good of the membership and non-profit sector. So lovely to see so many of you here today. For Q&As, we'll please do post those in the Q&A feature on Teams. Hopefully you'll see that in the top ribbon. And if we've got time at the end, we'll answer those questions for you. And if not, what we'll do is provide written responses to those questions as part of the delegate pack. My name's Jen Watkins, and I'm a director here at Intercloud9. Lara, do you want to just tell our audience a bit about yourself?
Yes, certainly. And I'm Lara Williams, and I'm the co-founder director of Momentum 4, a people performance consultancy. Absolutely delighted to be here in partnership with Intercloud9 as we look at the taking people through change, and AI is something that keeps coming up with all of our customers right now in how do we engage with it from a process and technology standpoint, but actually from a people transformational point as well.
Yeah, thanks, Laura. And I should say that Laura and I worked together as organisational development and leadership consultants back in 2007, and I can't believe that that's actually 15 years ago now, shockingly. So, in fact, no, it's more than that, isn't it?
I think it's
so.
I
think it's 18 years, isn't it? Yeah. Sorry, my maths obviously not very good. And Lara and I came together for this project because we both have a real passion for systems thinking, so tackling change systemically and putting people at the centre of change. So that's why we decided to collaborate on this topic, to bring that experience together. I'd also like to take the opportunity to give a shout out to Lisa Goldsmith from LJ Digital. And that's because the three of us, so Intercloud9, Momentum 4 and LJ Digital, have also decided to come together to think about the ways that we can support the sector in exciting and innovative new ways. And we'll be launching our sector first so-called Vanguard Fellowship later this month, which is a leadership programme, and we'll share details of that with you in the coming days. So let's get into it then. We've got lots of content for you today, but we're going to start off by hearing from you guys, and we're going to just first of all launch a poll to ask you what brings you here to the webinar today. So Chris, if you can just launch that poll for us, and guys, hopefully that will, if technology prevails, pop up on your screens. You can't launch it. Okay, let's I'll have a go at that one, shall
we? Love it when technology
foiled. Okay, so hopefully you can see that on your screen. So what brings you to the webinar today? Just a couple of words, and that will hopefully build us a nice word cloud so we can see what's going on for you all.
Always a good thing. Keen to learn.
Oh, AI philosophy.
Yeah. Oh,
That's
there's
deep.
there's a new subject at university. Get that module in. Yeah, the ethical considerations, definitely a biggie, aren't they? Opportunities and risks. Yeah, AI and people. The art of possibility. Did I just read there? Knowledge growth. Yeah, better understanding. Yeah, how does it make you more efficient?
Looks like knowledge is coming out as a,
Yeah.
as a key factor for many.
I keep hearing from a lot of our clients, you know, you don't know what you don't know. And it is that, how do we know? There's so much information out there and so many AI products and services popping up. It's a minefield.
Where did you start?
Where do you start? And it's knowing what is going to work the best for your business and your customers. So it's, yeah.
That's right. It's definitely not a case of one size fits all with AI. And, you know, we
No.
know from a technology point of view that using AI to solve very specific challenges seems to be the area where most benefits are achieved right now. So yeah, I think having knowledge of what tools and applications are out there that support use cases for this sector, for membership and non-profit organisations, is really crucial, especially when a lot of what we're seeing in the public domain right now is focused more on commercial organisations and commercial entities, which, you know, some of that may be relevant for membership and non-profits, but much of it may also not be, and could even risk damaging member trust and perception.
Yes. Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Thanks for that, guys.
Yeah.
And then we've got another question for you now, so I'm just going to close that one down. And this one is about, tell us how you're feeling about the potential impact of AI on the membership and non-profit sector. So how many stars would you give it? So 1 is highly skeptical, not feeling good at all, and 5 is, you know, absolutely fantastic, can't wait to get your hands on it and get going.
I call this tapping into your emotional intelligence, really tuning in to, how do you feel? You know, what is your gut feel telling you? That's normally the best place to start when you're answering these questions.
It's an interesting one, isn't it, as well, because, you know, we know that uncertainty is often a big factor in confidence. So, you know, the more uncertain we feel, the less confident we feel. And I get the sense that there is quite a lot of uncertainty around AI. So although the overall perception is quite positive, that lack of certainty and understanding of how to take it forward can erode those confidence levels.
Oh, definitely, definitely. You can see it across the globe right now, uncertainty just in the markets, you know, what it does to people's behavior. But I think fear, particularly in my area of coaching and training, there are coaches who are so scared of AI because they believe it's going to take over their jobs. So we'll look at that when we dive into some of the survey results.
Yeah, so we can see here that the average score is 3.9 stars out of 5. So I'd say that that reflects what we see. So there's some uncertainty around, but overall the positivity is pretty high. So that's just crept up to 4 out of 5.
Okay, can we see the results?
I can.
Yeah, I can't.
You can't. Okay, that's not ideal. Results. Okay, so it's telling me it's shared the results, so I'm not sure what else to do to get it to show on the screen, but it's sitting at 4 stars out of 5.
Okay, that's good.
Okay, so we're going to get into some content. We've got quite a lot of content to cover today because we want to leave you all feeling like you've got some really useful information, and we'll follow up with all of the resources that we're going to talk about today. So don't worry about taking notes. There'll be an extensive pack that follows this that covers all of the content that we'll be talking about today. So first question then is, well, why change? Why do we need to do anything differently? You know, isn't AI just another technology project? And, you know, although it's fair to say that sat at the MEMCOM conference last week and hearing about all of the challenges that many delegates had experienced with implementing technologies, I would imagine that even in the context of a tech project, people might be feeling quite concerned about how to do this stuff well. And we recognise that membership and non-profit organisations often face quite a distinct and unique set of challenges compared with, say, commercial organisations when it comes to adopting and benefiting from new technologies, particularly AI. So let's just have a little look at what some of those challenges are then. First of all, we've got limited resources and capacity. Budget constraints. We know that non-profits typically operate with really tight budgets, and investing in AI, whether that's acquiring new technology or training staff, can be expensive and sometimes therefore difficult to justify when there are other urgent priorities and budgets are constrained, with many seeing income declining with economic uncertainty and global economic uncertainty. Human resources, so many non-profits have very lean teams with limited technical expertise. Lots don't have dedicated IT departments or indeed in-house specialists that can lead AI initiatives, and that can make implementation and maintenance quite challenging. There is often board and leadership challenges that are unique to non-profits, with trustee boards often holding decision-making power but can lack deep technical understanding and knowledge, and that can result in a reluctance to adopt new complex technologies or can slow down that strategic decision-making process. Skills gap, so without sufficient internal expertise, many non-profits can struggle to identify the right tools. As we've touched on already, there are a plethora of AI tools available, more and more launched every day, and even those platforms that are quite mature now, like ChatGPT, they're also releasing new versions all of the time. So, how do you begin to make sense of which tools are right for your organisation? Can be quite challenging. Staff skepticism, right? Although there is positivity, there is, of course, questions around trust and adoption concerns, with staff being perhaps skeptical about the impact of AI on their roles, fearing that automation could even reduce jobs in the future. And those misconceptions about job displacement can naturally lead then to resistance. Cultural barriers, so successfully implementing AI often requires significant changes to workflows, organisational culture, and so non-profits that frequently operate with fewer resources and time pressures can find it difficult to commit to that level of organisational change. Data quality and infrastructure is an area that's perhaps also not so well understood. The absence of coherent, really high quality data can make it very difficult to leverage AI because, dare I say, rubbish in, rubbish out. AI needs really clean, well-structured, high quality data. And as we know, many non-profits and membership organisations really struggle in that area. Even those that have had new CRM projects and done that data cleansing as part of that project will find over time that the quality and structure of that data can decline quite dramatically. So without robust data governance, data quality frameworks, etc., the accuracy of data can become a real problem when looking to implement AI. Ethical challenges. There are worries about AI handling sensitive data and information such as member data or beneficiary data. So we have to be clear about the important questions that this raises about data security, consent, and compliance with those privacy and regulatory responsibilities. Ethical considerations. There's a strong need for transparency in how decisions are made by AI. There is a lot of concern about how AI is trained and therefore the propensity for there to be bias within the responses that AI provides. And, never was that more important than it is in the non-profit and charity sector. to build that confidence that you're using AI in a way that is ethical, avoiding bias, and protects the interests of the communities and members that you serve. And then regulatory uncertainty. There is still lots of ambiguity about the sort of regulations that the UK will adopt around AI. Europe is ahead of the wave here with the European AI Act. Britain looking like they're going to align perhaps more with the position of the states and take a more of a loose position. But actually, this is all still very much up in the air, and important to keep pace as those regulatory and legal requirements evolve over time. I'm still going, right? There's more. Legacy systems. So lots of you guys will have legacy systems that you rely on, or potentially quite basic technology stacks that might not be compatible with modern AI tools. So although the will's there, do you have the infrastructure to support that? So integrating AI into those systems can be quite technically and operationally challenging. So even if you can achieve pilot success with isolated AI use cases across the organization, to scale that out across the enterprise, again, could be quite challenging. So, the summary of all that is that we know that AI has the potential to transform, 4 stars out of 5, many of you agree that the potential is really significant. To transform operations, member engagement, and deliver impact, but those benefits are tempered by real world, quite complex challenges. Addressing those budgetary and resource constraints, closing the skills gap, managing staff concerns, improving data quality, ensuring ethical and regulatory compliance. These are all really critical steps for non-profits looking to leverage AI successfully.
Lots of reasons to change.
Indeed, indeed.
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to head on now into the AI survey that we conducted earlier this year. Thanks to those of you on the call that participated in that. I know many of you are on the call today. So as part of this webinar, we have produced a report that has all of the detailed findings from that survey, and that might be quite a useful resource for those of you that need to bring trustee boards up to speed and help them to understand what the sector is saying about AI. So I'll just run through the high level results from that. About half of the organisations that participated were membership bodies, and the remainder were chartered institutes, trade unions, and charities. Many of the respondents were senior leaders, with 24% being at CEO level and 29% at exec director level, and most 7 in 10 were at management level or above. Most responses came from organisations classed as small to medium, and quite a small number of large institutions. So really represents the sort of middle slice of the sector on the whole. So looking at the numbers then, we'll first of all look at AI knowledge, confidence and tool use. Just 6% said that they felt highly knowledgeable, 51% rated themselves as somewhat knowledgeable, and only 25% said they had limited or no knowledge. That really shows that people are getting to grips with AI tools. Comfort with those tools is broadly positive, 49% saying they're extremely comfortable, 34% somewhat comfortable, and only 17% uneasy. That mirrors personal confidence, where 30% said that they were very or extremely confident working alongside AI. 62% were somewhat confident, and only 6% were not at all confident. Respondents estimate that AI could realistically handle about 1/3 of their present workload, which I have to say I was quite surprised it was as high as that. And then upskilling then, so 51% believe significant ongoing training is essential for the workforce or should be mandatory, and only 9% think minimal or no training is needed. So clearly quite a lot of work to do there on training the staff. Perceived benefits and enthusiasm then. So the time dividend really came out very strongly in the research results, with 77% of people saying that they see the time dividend as a real benefit, so either extremely beneficial or beneficial, and no one felt that there was a lack of benefit from that time dividend. So clearly lots of time savings to be had. 84% believe that AI will definitely or probably enhance member engagement. Again, I was quite surprised that at this early stage of adoption, that figure was so high.
Yeah.
So moving on then, risks, trusts and ethical concerns. This did come out in the report. So views on role displacement were quite mixed, with 32% feeling that role displacement was unlikely, but 26% feeling unsure about the potential for future role displacement due to AI. 2/3, so 66% were concerned or very concerned about data privacy risks, which again points to, I think, a real lack of information available about how to handle those data privacy risks. Trust in AI is cautious, so 34% would probably trust AI, but no one said that they would definitely trust AI. Organizational readiness and leadership then. So, really important point here for managers and leaders in the room today. 91% insist that leadership must clearly communicate AI's impact on employees. But only 13% felt that the organisation was doing a great deal to prepare staff. And then confidence in successful AI adoption was, we would say, moderate, with 13% very or extremely confident versus 20% not confident. So some really interesting data coming through. And as I say, we'll give you, as part of the delegate pack, a full report into those results if you want to share that internally. Okay, so what can we take away from the research as an actionable set of recommendations? Well, I think first of all, we looked to the respondents, many of whom were really clear and helpful about what they want their organisations to do, or what they themselves are doing within their organisation. So a summary of that is, first of all, investing in training and tool selection, with many respondents calling for comprehensive staff training, and help identifying the most effective AI tools to use. Second was data quality. The phrase rubbish in, rubbish out aligns the need for really strong data hygiene and governance before scaling AI. Streamlining internal processes came across very strongly, as did showcasing relevant use cases. So what that means is there are so many players out there offering AI solutions that participants want clear sector-specific examples so that they can build confidence and secure buy-in. So just finally then, the survey results paint a picture of organisations eager to unlock AI value, but running ahead of their institutional footing, and those results pointing towards a capability gap where enthusiasm is outpacing expertise. Ethics as a license to operate, so high levels of concern around privacy and ethical considerations. Leadership imperative, staff looking to senior leadership for authoritative guidance on AI's purpose, limits, consequences. So that risk there that an inconsistent messaging or a lack of messaging creates a vacuum of mistrust and resistance. Member-centric opportunities, clearly respondents can see a big upside in member engagement potential. So early pilots that improve member experience, onboarding, personalisation, etc., will probably have a disproportionate benefit on organisational appetite. And then the change management deficit, as we call it, so preparation activities lagging behind strategic intent. So without a formal change management framework covering things like process design, data quality, ethics, etc., AI programs could stall at proof of concept stage. So, okay, there's lots of things to think about there that we need to take forward if we're going to onboard AI successfully within our organisation. So how do we do that then? It's all well and good knowing what the challenges are, but what we wanted to bring to you today was something that you could actually get your teeth into and start to use within your organisations. So as part of this webinar, we've created what we call our AI maturity model, which is a five-stage model, and acts as a diagnostic and planning tool to help with this unique environment of membership and non-profit organisations. So it balances ambition to onboard AI with those practical limitations that we've already touched on this morning. So we hope that this structured approach will help you to optimise resources, but also foster a culture of clarity, innovation and trust so that you can harness AI for greater social impact. So why do we need an AI maturity model then? There's several reasons. The first one is assessment of readiness. So giving you a structured framework to assess where you are in your AI adoption journey, from minimal awareness through to fully optimized, in pinpointing exactly where you are and what the gaps are, it's possible then to figure out what that roadmap might look like for adoption. So it creates a roadmap, gives a clear pathway for progression, and helps to prioritise investments and initiatives that will optimise your AI journey. Efficient use of limited resources. We know non-profits often face constraints in terms of budget, staff and expertise. So the maturity model will help you to focus on how to use those resources for greatest impact. Avoiding wasted effort. So with a structured approach, you're less likely to embark on ad hoc or overly ambitious projects that exceed capacity. Ethical and privacy considerations. We know that this is a real concern. So the model incorporates these dimensions, covering governance, ethics, data privacy and policies. And that's crucial to maintain trust with stakeholders, donors, boards, etc. And so regular assessments and updates along this maturity curve can help to build a culture of transparency with really clear internal policies and structures underpinning. So you'll find when you get the handout after the webinar that we've defined what each of these stages look like in terms of people, process, governance, etc. And we've also created a set of templates. So if you wish, you can just take those templates and start to adopt and use and adapt those for your organisation. I think importantly as well that it's helpful to inform your trustees. So if you've got an objective measurement process that you can use with this model, it can help board members to really understand the strategic implications of AI, prompting them to ask the right questions to provide better oversight of your journey. Staff engagement, Laura's going to touch upon this a little bit later, but really important to bring staff on that journey with you. So the model focuses on people and training and helps you to address those common scepticism concerns that staff undoubtedly will have. It's mission aligned. So for non-profits, maintaining alignment with your mission is paramount. And the AI maturity model ensures that initiatives are not just adopted for technology's sake, but are evaluated against your strategic objectives. So whether it's enhancing member engagement, improving efficiency, or increasing revenue or income, the model keeps the focus on delivering those mission critical outcomes. And then finally, continuous improvement. Nothing stands still. So by tracking your progress over time, you can adapt to emerging trends and technologies. So this is an iterative process. It's designed to ensure that you stay agile and responsive as opportunities emerge. There are 5 stages, as you can see reflected in the pyramid here. So the entry level is what we call the nascent level, and then it progresses up through level 2, exploring, level 3, developing, level 4, integrated, and level 5, optimized. I'm just going to say a little bit about each of those areas, and then I'll ask you to have a think about, as I go through and explain these areas, where you think your organisation is in relation to the maturity model right now, and we'll just pop a little poll up in a moment for you to share your thoughts. So at the nascent stage, then, this is the entry level, the organisation has minimal recognition of AI, with staff and trustees largely uninformed about its potential. Data practices are fragmented, so data is held in systems, different systems across the organisation, and there are virtually no internal policies, information or strategies for AI adoption. So that's level 1. See if you recognise yourselves in that at all. Level 2, exploring then, as we start to move up the pyramid. In the exploring stage, you'll be doing some initial pilot projects. There might be some informal training going on with staff to reveal the organisation's budding interest in AI. Basic data standardisation efforts are being put in place, and ethical considerations are being thought about to signal the early formation of some AI-related governance. So you might have some basic policies in place at this stage. Moving up then to developing. At the developing stage, AI is actively integrated into select functions, so not across the organisation, but particular use cases or particular teams or departments, with structured pilot projects and some growing internal expertise. You'll be undertaking regular AI audits. You'll have some data governance roles defined and some formal policies for data privacy and ethics, laying the foundations for broader AI adoption. So doing well if you're recognising some of those system conditions. So moving right up towards the top of the pyramid then, integrated is level 4. So at the integrated stage, AI is systematically embedded across core workflows. It's driving routine decision making with high quality structured data. There are robust training programs, comprehensive internal policies, and active trustee oversight. That oversight ensuring ongoing ethical considerations, mission alignment, and seamless integration of AI across the organisation. And then finally, at the optimised level, so this is the pinnacle of the journey, AI is fully woven into the organisational fabric, powering real-time strategic decision-making and insights and continuous innovation. There is advanced data management, dynamic policies that evolve as regulatory changes evolve, and there are ongoing external audits positioning the organisation as a leader in ethical, mission-aligned AI adoption. So thinking about those 5 levels, we'll just bring up our poll. It'd be really great to hear from you as to where you think you are in that journey right now. So have a little think about that and then share your thoughts with us, and we'll see where people are.
I'm loving this model, Jenny. Loving it. It's
Thanks,
really helped our business just to really focus in on what we need to do. Like you say, you don't know what you don't know, and I think this really gives you that structure.
You know, and I think the benchmarking is important as well. You know, we all like a benchmark, right? So you know, being able to see where you are in relation to other membership organisations and non-profits, I think is pretty helpful.
Yeah.
So in terms of the results here, then, I guess not surprisingly, the majority of participants are at level 1 or level 2. Although I think quite surprisingly, we've got some level 3s and 4s, and we also have some level 5 as well across those responses. So I think what that goes to show is that people are at quite different stages of that journey, and those that have got their teeth into AI really making progress very rapidly, and those that are perhaps more towards those levels of nascent and exploring will undoubtedly benefit from some support to help transition through their journey. So in the interest of time then, I'm going to just skip forward through those levels, and I'm going to hand over to Lara to talk us through the Change House.
Thank you. Well, it leads very nicely on, I think, from the maturity model, because I think as a business, it's nice, like you just mentioned, the word benchmarking as to what are we doing, what are we not doing, what do we need to do, and what drives that, of course, is us as humans, thankfully, not AI. As leaders in businesses, we have to have the right mindset to be able to really work through change, because change is continuous. AI, I don't think you ever really stop, because there's always new products and services that are coming out. But for a lot of us, if you haven't seen the Change House, I'm going to just take you through it. So what I thought would be quite nice is just to think about when we're looking at adopting new technology services, AI, whatever it might be, it's about how we feel about it, our emotional intelligence, and what are we thinking about it. And I know from my perspective, I'll give you my own story from Momentum 4, when we were caught in the room of contentment. I mean, you know, it's a nice place, isn't it? It's comfortable. You know what you're doing. Business is going well. We've got global brands, organizations that we're working with, and we were doing lots of face-to-face work until, like for many, COVID hit. And that's what got us out of the room of contentment, to be honest, was this uncertainty. And with uncertainty brings some, what do we do now? It's where am I? What are we doing? We can't go back to face to face. So it was driven by something external, but it did trigger us to question, can we always do what we've always done? And that denial can be a split second, or it can be as quick a shift into the room of confusion. Some people will stay in the room of denial because it's not my responsibility. Yeah, it's where we are not seeing actually the changes that are occurring all around us. And I think AI is a good example of this, particularly in my world, where people are saying, nah, I don't need to do that. Why would I want to do that? Why do I want a bot that's going to replace me? So all the myths are taking over the truth, and that keeps them in the room of denial, even in the dungeon of denial, as we say, where you get trapped. And for us as a business, we didn't spend much time here because the market told us we had to do something different. And the trigger point actually was a conversation with a digital company to get into more digital online learning. At that point, like we're all experiencing now, the room of confusion tells us, oh, yes, we know we've got to change, but actually there's too much options. There's too many options out there. What is it that I do? And as we can see from the maturity model, a lot of us are in that early phase of questioning, and we don't know what we don't know. So the confusion room, I always say to people in leadership, it's a good place to be. This is where we explore. This is where we are curious. This is where we ask lots of questions. What we don't want to do is overanalyze, and we get to the paralysis. We're paralyzed. We're in the pit of paralysis. Yeah, we want to make sure that we're looking at the options. And in our story, what we did was we looked at partnerships. We looked at collaborations with experts, because that was the way that we moved to the room of renewal. But having said that, before we moved to the room of renewal, we actually took the wrong direction. We actually spent a lot of time working on a product in technology that wasn't right for our customers. And that was a big lesson for us, because the market wasn't ready. And we spent about 2 years working on that. Lessons learned, but it was the wrong direction, Dawn. Yeah, that's business. So for us, it was lessons learned, but we had to shift our mindset to what's possible, what's next, what can we what is the solution? How can we learn more? How can we know more? How can we grow as a business? What partnerships are right? What do our customers want? What are they saying? So again, the room of renewal is where we grow, we build, we're on our journey, we've adapted to it. We're probably, I would say, maybe exploring even up to the next level on the maturity model. And of course, at some point, we might become content. But of course, contentment doesn't sit for very long because it all starts again. So as a leader, I want you just to reflect, what room are you in? So we know where you are on the maturity model, but actually, where's your mindset? How are you really, are you really going, do we need to do this? Do we? I'm in denial. Are you confused? I'm getting the sense that many of us are in this place of confusion. We don't know what we don't know. We want to have that pathway. I love what Jen said, just to create that roadmap. You're going to get so many resources today that are going to enable you to really look at how you move forward and create some of those recommendations to define that roadmap to get to the room of renewal. So we haven't got a poll, so it's just a reflection piece. I want you to think, where am I as a leader in my business? In what room? And what do I have to do to shift? What's it going to take for me to shift rooms? And like I say, the change house model can happen in a split second. It can happen in a week. It can happen in 10 years. Yeah, you'll have people stuck in different places. So the other part of leadership, of course, is your people, your business. We've got to take people with us on a journey. So when you think about your team, maybe it's the board that you're having to influence, where do you see their mindset? Where do you think the shift needs to happen? How can we support people in taking them into the next room? Because there are trigger points for each intervention. Okay, for each change, there's a trigger point. What do you need to do to support your people to take them through change? If we go to how, so how as people do we do that? And I like to look, I call it the 4 C's, because I think it enables us to adopt change in the right way. And again, it's a reflection piece. Where are you in the change house? But more importantly, are you committed? I guess the answer is yes, otherwise you wouldn't be here. You're committed to knowing more. You're committed to taking on new ways of working. You're committed to developing your people, to communicating what's going on. What is it that you're committing to? Okay, what is it that you're committing to? 100%. Remember, commitment is 100%. You're in. All right, so I really want you to think about that. When you're driving this adoption, what is it that you're committing to? When we commit to something, particularly going through change, it takes courage. It really does take courage. And if I think about even from our business perspective, when we were taking on the potential of a new CRM, dread, the user adoption element of getting people to use a CRM was the bit that I said, come on, we've got to have courage. This is the right thing to do for the business, and we're going to adopt it and we're going to drive it forward and it's going to be successful. So then you've got to make sure that you're capable. You've got the capability within yourself and within the business. And as Jen has specified, upskilling came out of the survey. Upskilling people to ensure that you've got that capability, that you've got the confidence that you can drive the new adoption forward. So again, just be thinking about that. What's our capability like in our business right now, within myself as a leader? And how confident do I feel where I am right now that I can leave this webinar with some new resources, that I can create a roadmap? Maybe it's looking for a partner, maybe it's looking for more support, maybe it's reaching out to other CEOs, other leaders in the sector where you can have those conversations. But what is it that's going to give you that confidence? Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a really crucial point there, because there's a real sense of community, I think, in the membership sector especially, and looking at colleagues in the room today who are at different levels, it's how can we share that learning, how can we share those good practices, what's working, so that those that are further ahead on that journey can really help and support others that might need that. So let's hear from you guys then. We've got again just a very quick poll, and we'd like to ask you what you see as your greatest barrier to introducing AI and why. Just a couple of words, just a couple of reflections on what you see as potentially getting in the way of adopting AI successfully.
And interestingly, as you fill out the poll, when we work with organisations, we run a session on setting you up for success. And within that, of course, mindset is a big part of that. Time is next. Yeah, mindset, time and energy. We always talk about when we're taking on a new transformation and change, and particularly taking people. So it's that time is highlighting, I think, quite a lot.
Yeah, I think you're so right, Laura, and we've seen this with the history of unsuccessful tech projects in the sector, and I really feel that that's largely down to that underestimation of just how resistant to change people can be, even if they want the change. And we've seen this a lot with things like CRM, where users hate their current systems, and one would think that they would of course be then really ready to adopt new technologies, and yet that adoption still falls short. And I really feel that is due to the things that you're discussing here, that those people, those cultural, those sort of hidden views that people have that need to be really worked through very systematically.
Well, you might have the capability and the confidence, but if you haven't got the commitment and the courage, you know, you can really see that it's destined to not be as successful. Not saying it won't work, but you need that commitment, you need that buy-in, and time, prioritization comes into that. How do you make time to implement this successfully?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's where these resources can be really helpful today, that we're going to save you lots of time, having done a lot of the thinking about how to structure successful AI onboarding, and thinking about those, you know, those complex myriad of challenges, and giving you some really practical tips and tools and frameworks that you can use for that will, you know, as I say, hopefully save you lots of time in that journey.
Exactly.
Okay, so we're nearing the end of the webinar then, and on that note, it is, we think, helpful to think about, well, what do I do next? What do I do differently? I've listened to what Intercloud9 and Momentum 4 have had to say this morning. I'm going to get lots of resources after this webinar that I can dive into and start using and making good use of. And so we thought, well, okay, what can we do to really invite you to move this on? So we've got a couple of suggestions here. The first one is to reflect and set one concrete action that you're going to carry out in the next week. And that might be as simple as having a look at the policies that we're going to send to you later today, and thinking about how you might be able to adopt a draft introductory policy into your organisation. Secondly, resources. So we're going to send you the link to the survey. We're going to send you the AI maturity model, and lots of supporting templates. So please do have a look at those, and I'd encourage you to use them. I think they're going to save you lots and lots of time. And then finally, have a think about what help you need to move forward. There are obviously many colleagues and peers across the sector that have lots of experience that you can potentially draw upon. So, you know, networking is really important. But we can also help. So Momentum 4 Intercloud9 can help with strategic road mapping, board briefings, help with tool selection, thinking about what tools might be useful in your organisation. Data we've spoken about is really crucial, so we can help with thinking about data cleansing, data analysis, and getting your data into a position where you can really leverage the benefits of AI. And then, as Laura's spoken about at length, you know, that change management piece, which is not to be underestimated. I think more so than any other technology we've seen in our lifetimes, AI has the potential for lots of careful change management consideration and upskilling of staff that needs to be done. So we've got a couple of minutes if there are any burning questions that you'd like to post in the Q&A. And there's a Q&A option in the ribbon at the top of Teams. I'll just give a minute or two for you to think about any questions that you have. Also, please feel free to reach out to us after the webinar with any burning questions that you have. You know, we're happy to give people no obligation advice to help move things forward. And, you know, if you've got any questions and we run out of time, we can follow up with responses to those as well. So we hope you found today's webinar useful. As I say, there's lots of content that we're going to follow up with. Yeah, the time does fly by. And we have got a closing poll for you then, whilst you think about any questions that you might have. And that's just a bit of feedback for us. So we'd like to know if you found the webinar today useful. So either very useful, somewhat useful, or not useful at all. Please don't feel like you have to be kind. It's all learning, right?
Absolutely.
Wow, Laura, that went fast.
I know. It's so much to talk about, but yeah.
Thanks. Well, hope that's nice to see. So 60% said very useful and the remainder somewhat useful. So thanks for your kind feedback, and yeah, just wish you well and have a wonderful day. We're here to help if you need anything. And thanks so much for taking the time out to join us this morning. Hope you found the session useful. And Lara, thank you as well for giving up your time for us as well.
Thanks for having me in partnership. Thank you. Really, I'm learning as well as we go for my own business. So it's been very, very useful.
Right. Thanks, everyone. Have a super day. Bye.
Cheers. Happy Thursday. Bye for now.